Next, we have Jose Flores from the Movement Strategy Center. He's a development strategist. Prior to fund development, he organized low-income communities around issues of environmental justice, access to quality healthcare, and diversity in higher education. Jose has also worked as a reporter for KPFK, where he broadcast features on U.S. military intervention around the world and interviewing historians, analysts, and civil rights advocates. Let's hear Jose.
Wow. There's a lot of folks here. It's beautiful to see the room packed. And I want to thank the organizers of the event and the restaurant venue for bringing us together for this event. So Carla asked me to talk about how does permaculture as a framework and methodology apply to building alliances for social justice. MSC is an intermediary organization that supports groups to be more strategic, collaborative, sustainable. So she thought it would be fitting that we try to talk about that. And I was actually trying to advocate, one of my fellow coworkers, Jadan Kuhn, who isn't here tonight, was also a permaculturalist to talk also, but unfortunately she couldn't make it tonight. So what I'm going to do is pull a little bit from the permaculture principles previously mentioned by the other panelists. And the wonderful thing about repetition is it's a fantastic educational tool. But you also see it in the natural ecosystem, in the environment. You see it in the stars, you see it in the forest. So we try to apply it here in this forum. So I'm going to talk about observation, and this is, I believe, first on the list of principles, and it's for me, it's a cornerstone. So observation, it's about using protracted and thoughtful observation of the natural system rather than protracted and thoughtless labor. So really being intentional about how we approach our work, and this one personally resonated with me because growing up, my parents were active in the liberation movement in the Philippines. So growing up, they taught us the principle of no investigation, no right to speak. And me and my siblings practiced that, but it went both ways. It was democratic. So if my parents didn't have the facts right, we'd say no investigation, no right to speak. But the same applies to organizing. We really have to be aware of the situation in the community, the context, the culture, the traditions, some of the tensions, and be sensitive to that before we go about doing things and saying things and making plans and strategizing. It's like that's kind of basic to just be good listeners, be aware, be watchful. So I really want to highlight that. Next is EDGE, and I believe Amanda talked about this in great detail, but I'm going to apply it to MSC's work. So EDGE, optimizing EDGE. Edges or ecotones are areas where two ecosystems come together to form a third, which has more diversity and productivity than either of the two separately. So, like Amanda mentioned, you see that in meadows and ponds and edges of forests. Now, in the movement, we're seeing that coming together with the intersections of different sectors. Normally, different sectors don't work together, or previously, but nowadays, you can't afford to do that. We have to figure out a way to come together, have things be more aligned and coordinated. So Amanda's work is really, really exemplary because ACRJ, Emerge, they're doing that. They're making that a reality. They're doing that on a national scale. But here in California, they're one of the key groups in this coalition called Californians for a Healthy and Green Economy. And we work closely with ACRJ. MSC works closely with ACRJ, and we helped ACRJ and this coalition called the Change Coalition come together, bring together reproductive environmental justice groups around regulation of toxic chemicals. Now this applies to, of course, women and children because you see a lot of toxic chemicals being unregulated with cleaning supplies, household products, and also the workers. The majority of whom are, you see a lot of women workers. So it's it's something that impacts the daily lives of people in our community. Now, what did MSC do? We brought together these groups so they can figure out, all right, how do we pass key pieces of legislation locally so we can have more regulation and we can have more oversight on what we buy from the stores? Because that pillow that you may be buying from IKEA that's doused in fire retardant chemicals is killing you. And if you're a nursing mother, you're going to be passing that on to the child that you're feeding. So, so this is how edges are applying to movement building work, bringing together sectors or organizations that previously wouldn't even think of coming together, but now they're thinking of ways to come together and have an impact as a larger group. I also want to talk a little bit about this new alliance called Climate Justice Now North America. How many folks here know about this new alliance? All right, so this new alliance is actually being anchored by Movement Generation and the Indigenous Environmental Network. And this was recently launched in the spring at Occidental. So here we're bringing organizations that represent racial justice, economic justice, environmental justice groups to a rural area like Occidental, urban and rural, bringing it together to talk about how do we make an impact in our community around climate justice. And if you think about some of maybe the conflict and tension or some of the baggage organizations may have, it's something else to see folks coming together like this to address something so urgent as global warming in a local level. So so MSC helped facilitate this gathering and really work closely with the anchor groups like MG and IEN to launch this alliance. And it took off following the launching, and you saw that recently in Detroit at the Ecological Justice PMA. There was just a lot of energy and resonance and momentum happening in Detroit, and it took groups coming together from different areas of work and sectors to push forward that work. So for me, I think nature really has a lot of insight to offer us in terms of how to create a sustainable movement. So just like natural ecosystems, we need diversity and adaptability. Like easily adapting to changes and new conditions. Like we had to move these chairs real quick because it was blocking the way to the bathroom. As a permaculturist, you look at the situation, you got to adapt to it. And this is what we did just tonight. We did this like that. And we also need different roles of people in the movement. We need an ecosystem of organizations. Policy work, youth organizing, women's organizations, reproductive justice groups, environmental justice groups, the list goes on. So literally and figuratively, MSC is really invested in creating an ecosystem of organizations that complement each other, that strengthen each other's work and have more impact. And we're starting to see that here with MG and the groups coming together. And just real quick on a personal level, I'm really thankful to have been able to participate. I'm an immigrant to the U.S. I was born in the Philippines. I grew up on a small little farm. My grandmother was a simple farmer growing up. So, like the previous panel said, it's like reminding me of my connection. I carry culture, history, and a story around that. And the course was helpful in reminding me that. And then in my household, I'm starting small. I'm not starting out with a huge farm or even a garden. I'm just trying to grow some herbs on my porch. And my partner, she's a social worker. She's a really tense job. She works with out-of-school youth that live in a group home, and they just got really traumatic life situations, and she tends to carry that. So I was thinking, like, all right, I need to grow some herbs, maybe some lemon verbena or some jasmine, or something, something that she leaves the door, like, she can calm down when she enters the house. So that's kind of where I'm at with this, and I hope to learn more. I'm not learning more.
Wow.